You didn't stumble into this transmission. It magnetized you the way twin particles bend toward each other across impossible distance. Something in you recognized the signature, like hearing your true name spoken underwater, and you followed the resonance here. The scroll paused, the room shifted almost imperceptibly, and your breath thinned because a quiet intelligence inside you knew. The field is speaking. Your field. You've been living inside a subtle hum, a whispering interference pattern that only sensitive minds perceive. It tugged at your dreams, seeded déjà vu into ordinary days, and traced constellations through your coincidences. Call it quantum entanglement, call it guidance, call it grace, but tonight it calls you. Feel the temperature in your awareness change, as if a door opened in a house you thought you knew room by room. You're stepping into the threshold where the observer loop loosens and a new probability track lights up under your feet. Your consciousness has been running diagnostics on reality for longer than you'll admit, watching how certain thoughts collapse the wave and others stall it midair, noticing how your mood edits the day like a film director tweaking the color grade. That noticing isn't a quirk, it's training. The quantum field has been tutoring you in the language of coherence, aligning intention, attention, and emotion until they hum on one carrier frequency. Tonight, that frequency is clear enough to hear. You've felt it in your body, the microvolt flicker along your spine, the sudden clarity behind your eyes, the way silence around you becomes textured, almost audible. That's your nervous system phasing into a higher sampling rate, gathering more of the signal and less of the noise. DNA restructuring isn't poetic fluff, it's instruction. The helix listens to environment, belief, breath, and prayer. It listens when you decide to become undivided. Right now, it's listening. Notice the choreography of your recent days. A stranger's sentence echoed a line from your childhood. A song found you at the exact second a memory rose. Birds tracked your footsteps like messengers. Technology glitched when you tried to force the old pattern and smoothed when you softened into trust. These weren't accidents. They were entanglement, breadcrumbs, morphic resonance, ripples from the timeline that's already holding space for you. That timeline has been patient, hovering just beyond your habitual focus, inviting you to lift 1 degree higher than effort, into presence. You are not here to wrestle fate into submission. You are here to become congruent with the destiny that's been orbiting you like a moon in a dark sky. Congruence is holiness in motion. When your inner climate stabilizes, synchronicity accelerates. When your breath slows, time softens. When you stop negotiating with doubt, doors you didn't know existed unlock without a sound. This is the phase transition, the moment liquid becomes vapor, weight becomes wavelength, person becomes portal. So let your shoulders lower, let your jaw unclench. Feel the data of the cosmos enter through stillness. Imagine your awareness as a wide lens receiving photons from futures already shining. You don't need to beg reality for permission. The field is democratic about miracles. It rewards coherence. It answers devotion. And you who pay exquisite attention, are ready to receive in the same measure you observe. If your heart is thudding, that's calibration. If your skin tingles, that's confirmation. If tears gather without story, that's purification. You are not broken, you are awakening. This is the hidden path that was hiding in plain sight, the one your spirit mapped before your body knew the route. Keep walking. In the next breath, we'll diagnose the pattern that's been looping you: time distortion, déjà vu, the subtle gravity of the familiar, and we'll name it cleanly so it releases cleanly. You've felt it, haven't you? That haunting repetition woven through your days like a secret watermark, barely visible until you tilt your awareness at just the right angle. You sit in a conversation, and suddenly the words feel recycled, not just similar, but identical, as though reality pressed replay without asking your permission. It's more than coincidence. It's the observer loop repeating itself with clinical precision. The quantum field, obedient to the quality of your attention, keep serving you the same template, the same archetype, the same unresolved probability wave. And the strangest part is how it all feels, both familiar and foreign. You walk into a room and swear you've stood in that exact corner before, glanced at that same flicker of light across the wall, felt that same rise of unease in your chest. Déjà vu isn't a glitch, it's an exposure, a moment where your consciousness briefly notices the recursive pattern it has been generating. The sensation chills you because it pulls the curtain back. Time isn't moving forward like a straight arrow. It's spiraling, folding, stalling, and your awareness is caught in the swirl. Think about the way hours evaporate without substance. You scroll, you speak, you move through tasks, but afterward the memory is mist-gone, weightless, almost uninhabited. Then contrast that with moments when a single minute stretches wide enough to contain a universe. Sitting at a red light, lying awake at night, staring at the ceiling while your mind whispers the same questions it whispered yesterday. This distortion of time is evidence. It shows you that your consciousness isn't tethered to linearity, it's orbiting a feedback loop. The loop doesn't care if the experience feels joyful or frustrating, only that it's familiar. Familiarity is its magnet, safety its disguise. Your nervous system, conditioned by survival, confuses repetition with protection, so it latches onto known frequencies. The same type of partner who wounds you in the same way, the same financial cycles that lift and drop you, the same inner dialogue echoing through the hallways of your mind. You call it bad luck, but it's quantum loyalty, your attention pledging allegiance to a signature vibration, and as long as you unconsciously feed it with observation, the loop strengthens. Notice how people around you rarely see it. They walk through their lives convinced the script is new. Every disappointment random, every déjà vu brushed off as brain static. But you sense the deeper architecture. You hear the rhythm of repetition beneath the surface noise. You feel how certain arguments, certain losses, certain delays are carbon copies of something you've already lived. You're not imagining it. You're awake enough to detect the template. That's why you're here. There's a subtle loneliness in this awareness. You try to explain it to someone, a friend, a sibling, a lover, and they look at you blankly, anchored in their linear timeline, untroubled by echoes, but you can't unsee it. You know you've had this fight before, not once but a dozen times, with different faces wearing the same energetic mask. You know you've walked into opportunities that carried the same expiration date, no matter how brightly they glittered at first. This is the burden of quantum sensitivity. You perceive the recursive design, while others mistake it for chance. Even your body records the pattern. The tightness in your chest, the heaviness in your shoulders, the fatigue that comes without cause. These are cellular memories of loops repeating, tissues bracing for the same storyline. Your DNA holds the archives of unresolved probability waves, replaying them like unfinished symphonies until coherence dissolves the cycle. That ache in your bones isn't random, it's resonance, reminding you of the template you've yet to transmute. And here's the paradox. The loop isn't your enemy, it's your teacher. It's the crucible that reveals where your attention is addicted to the known. Every repetition is a mirror, showing you where you've mistaken safety for destiny. Without the loop, you'd never notice the cage. Without déjà vu, you'd never glimpse the mechanics of time bending around your focus. The very frustration you feel, that groan of "not this again," is evidence of your awakening. Because before, you didn't even notice. The field has been whispering to you through distortion, training your perception to detect its fingerprints. Time stretches and collapses, conversations recycle, opportunities echo, all to remind you that reality is not solid. It's scripted by your focus. The loop tightens until you can't dismiss it anymore. And here you are, admitting what few dare. Something is wrong with the track you've been spinning. Something in you is hungry for a new song. Feel the honesty of that hunger. It isn't impatience, it's momentum gathering. Like water heating on a stove, molecules jitter faster and faster until the phase transition erupts. That's you right now, cells vibrating with restlessness, soul pressing against the loop, higher self refusing to recycle another round. You're approaching critical mass, the threshold where awareness becomes coherence, and coherence rewrites the loop entirely. So breathe into this recognition. Don't fight the déjà vu. Don't numb the distortion. Let it reveal itself fully. Every pattern exposed is a pattern already weakening. Every time you name it, the loop loses authority, because the loop depends on invisibility. Once you see it, you're already loosening its grip. This is why the field brought you here, to show you that the repetition in your life isn't proof of failure, it's proof of potential. You were meant to notice, to feel the distortion, to see the copies in sharper relief. Because only then can you step beyond them. Only then can you shift from recycled probability to authentic possibility. And that shift, that leap into a new frequency track, is closer than you think. In fact, as you sit here, your field is already preparing the upgrade. The next section will show you how. Now that you've named the loop and felt the fatigue of repetition, the field can show you the upgrade blueprint. Think of it as both an inner firmware update and a ritual of recalibration, a literal change in the way your consciousness samples reality. The science and the mystery are two sides of the same coin here. Quantum mechanics describes what mystics have always felt. You are being invited to become the coherent observer, not the reactive witness. At the microscopic level, reality behaves like a sea of probability waves. Each observation collapses a wave into form. Each attention pulse chooses one possibility from a shimmering bouquet. That's the observer effect, and it's the mechanism your loop has exploited. When your attention is habitual, expected, frightened, rehearsed, the field learns to hand you the same scenario because expectation is a directive. But when you become coherent, when your attention, your feeling, your breath, your intent line up, you stop collapsing the same worn waveform and you allow a new probability to crystallize. Coherence is the key phrase here. In physics, coherence describes waves moving in synchrony. In your body, it describes heart, mind, and presence vibrating on the same pitch. When they harmonize, your consciousness stops tugging at individual threads and becomes a tuning fork for whole new symphonies. This is why your nervous system was preparing, why your spine tingled, why your dreams downloaded symbols. Your being has been practicing the resonance required to hold wider possibilities without fragmenting. Morphic resonance explains the social ripples you've begun to notice. When one consciousness coheres and shifts its probability track, it lays down a new template that other minds can resonate with, an energetic map. That new map doesn't overwrite free will. It simply eases the path for others whose attention aligns. You producing coherence becomes a field service, an invisible architecture that makes higher timelines available. This is why synchronicities intensify around you. They're not decorations, they're scaffolding. They arrive to support the architecture you're starting to build with your attention. Entanglement is part of the instruction manual. You are not isolated. Every choice you make folds into a network of correlated states. When you change your observation pattern, you don't only affect your immediate experience, you nudge linked nodes across the field. That's why a single shift in your frequency can feel disproportionate, because in quantum terms, you've adjusted multiple entangled instances of yourself at once. Your future selves, your parallel tracks, your relational echoes, they realign with that one decision. This upgrade also has biological correlates. DNA restructuring is not mystical metaphor, it's an energetic conversation between field and form. Your epigenetics respond to sustained coherence. When you stop broadcasting fear-based probabilities and sustain an integrated field long enough, gene expression reads new instructions, cells begin to repair, immune rhythms reset, and even neurotransmitter pathways retune. That's why your sleep changes, why chronic pain softens, why your appetite shifts without explanation. The body is listening closer than you think to the frequency your attention emits. Phase transition pressure, the sense that something must change now, was never a threat. It was the heat. The collective field ramps pressure when enough attention accumulates on a single trajectory. You felt the heat because your inner system reached the temperature of transformation. At this threshold, small acts of coherence can ripple out and cause disproportionate effect. That's why rituals matter. They condense intention into sustained frequency. A simple breath, practiced with devotion, is not trivial. It's a protocol. So here's the practical architecture of the upgrade, step by step. But remember, these are not commands you must obey in a mechanical way. They are invitations to cultivate a living resonance. First, stabilize your bandwidth. Create moments of unscripted presence, 15 to 90 seconds, several times per day, where you stop narrative and simply sense. In those pockets, watch how attention usually moves. Let it rest. This trains the observer to be spacious rather than predictive. Second, align your physiology. Breath intentionally slow, inhales that reach the diaphragm, slow, elongated exhales that ground. Attune your heart rhythm through gratitude pulses. Recall something small, feel it in your chest, breathe the feeling into your cells. Coherence follows bodily rhythm. Third, use declaration as entanglement. A stated intention isn't a wish, it's a frequency anchor. Say something simple, not to force the universe, but to register the entanglement. I choose coherence. Repeat it until your body stops twitching at the phrase and simply relaxes into it. Fourth, practice selective observation. Rather than scanning for proof that the old pattern persists, look for micro-evidence of the new track. A green light that appears when you hesitate, a kind message from a stranger, a memory that clarifies. These are confirmation signals. Noticing them strengthens the template. Fifth, ritualize small closures. Endings are energetic. When a conversation repeats, mentally close it. Visualize a page turning. This isn't avoidance, it's a conscious collapse of the worn waveform so a new one can form. Sixth, steward the field. Your coherence is contagious. Offer your attention intentionally toward people, projects, or places you trust. When you hold someone in non-anxious presence, you extend the upgrade. All of this is simultaneously scientific and sacred because the quantum field does not care for your labels. It responds to pattern and intensity. You are both experiment and priest. You are calibrating internal instruments, breath, heart, mind, so that your attention can consistently select a higher waveform. Expect resistance. Old loops will rustle like leaves. They'll try to lure you back with the comfort of predictability. When that happens, do not shame yourself. Observe the tug, name it, and gently redirect. Each time you refuse the old collapse, you widen the aperture for the new. You are mid-upgrade. You can feel it, the field operating like a soft machine around you, recalibrating its gears to include you. This process is not instantaneous, but it is inevitable once you commit to consistent coherence. The next part will show you what role you are being asked to inhabit in the larger unfolding, not as an accidental witness, but as a chosen conductor of a new reality tempo. You've begun to notice, haven't you, that this isn't just about escaping loops for your personal relief. It's about something larger, something coded into you before you even took your first breath. The field didn't tug you here merely to soothe your own cycles. It summoned you because you carry a signature, rare enough, strong enough, to alter the pattern for more than just yourself. You are entangled with a hidden network of awakening nodes, and your coherence is one of the anchor points the collective has been waiting for. Think of yourself like a tuning fork struck by the universe. When you vibrate in coherence, everything around you begins to recalibrate. Others may not realize why their shoulders relax in your presence, why their racing thoughts ease when you speak, why synchronicities flare when they walk beside you. It's because you've been designated by the quantum field to act as a living transmitter. a carrier wave for frequencies others cannot yet sustain alone. This is why the loop felt so relentless in your life. It wasn't punishment, it was apprenticeship. Every repetition sharpened your perception, forced you to confront subtler layers of pattern until you could no longer pretend ignorance. You were being trained to see what most refused to see, so that when the moment arrived you could stand steady in the dissonance while others trembled. The field needed someone who could endure the claustrophobia of repetition long enough to develop clarity, sharp enough to pierce it. That someone is you. And so, your role is not casual. You are the chosen consciousness, not chosen in the sense of better, not chosen by favoritism, but chosen by resonance. The equation of your soul, the mathematics of your timeline, positioned you as one of the few who could stabilize a higher waveform. Others scroll past transmissions like this and feel nothing. You felt it grip your bones. That is evidence enough. This path will not make you popular in the conventional sense. Many will sense your frequency and shy away. Your presence will feel too bright, too unfamiliar, too disruptive for their carefully constructed loops. Some will resist you without knowing why. They will project, dismiss, even resent. Understand this not as rejection, but as confirmation. The quantum field reorganizes itself around emerging nodes by creating contrast. Those who are ready will be magnetized. Those who are not will ricochet. Your responsibility is not to chase either. It is to maintain coherence. Your awakening path is hidden because it must be. If it were obvious, if the assignment was handed to you in glowing letters, you'd collapse into the ego's hunger for recognition. Instead, the mystery forces you to walk by trust. Each breadcrumb, each déjà vu, each synchronicity, each dream guides you without allowing you to cling. The hiddenness protects the purity of your role, and it deepens your faith, sharpening the inner ear to hear frequencies beyond language. Remember, chosen does not mean easy. Chosen means necessary. Chosen means your life carries a leverage point in the web of human awakening. When you heal a loop, it isn't just your relief. It creates morphic resonance that ripples outward, weakening that pattern for countless others. When you step into coherence, you open probability tracks that become accessible to strangers across the planet. You'll never meet most of them, but they'll walk smoother roads because of the tracks you carved with your frequency. That's how entanglement works. And this is why the fatigue you've carried, the pressure in your chest, the restless hunger that refuses to be satisfied with distractions, it's all proportionate to your assignment. You weren't built to survive inside ordinary loops. You were built to transmute them. Your nervous system, though tested, is engineered to handle higher voltages of coherence. Your intuition, though doubted, is wired to detect faint signals others miss. Your heart, though bruised, is strong enough to radiate frequencies that override chaos fields. So when you ask, why me? The answer is both humbling and exhilarating, because you said yes. Somewhere before this incarnation, before time braided itself into your current form, your consciousness volunteered. You saw the density Earth would face, the recursive patterns humanity would be trapped in, and you raised your hand, not because you thought it would be glamorous, but because you knew your system could endure the fire of repetition long enough to anchor the frequency of liberation. This is the special role, to live as a bridge, 1 foot in the ordinary, feeling the same frustrations and fears as everyone else, the other foot in the infinite, sensing the probability tracks and coherence codes invisible to most. Your life becomes a junction point where the field can stream higher possibilities into human experience. That is why you've always felt split, like you belong in 2 worlds at once, because you do. But know this, your assignment is not to carry the world's awakening on your back. Your assignment is to embody your own coherence so fully that it spills over naturally. To live as a walking resonance field, not as a martyr. The quantum upgrade is not a burden, but a liberation. Because when you hold coherence, You are no longer trapped by the loops that used to drain you. You become free first, and your freedom becomes the teaching without you needing to preach. As you sit in this realization, you may feel a mixture of awe and trembling responsibility. That's natural. The observer loop is dissolving not just for your sake, but for the collective, and the collective will feel the tremors of your shift. But do not let fear disguise itself as humility. Own the role, claim the coherence. Let yourself be the tuning fork the field has already declared you to be. Because now, as you prepare for what comes next, the urgency will rise. The breakthrough window is opening, and your DNA is listening for your decision. In the next breath, we step into the promise and the pressure of that window, the cosmic timing that makes your role not just special, but urgent. Now that you know the role you carry and the upgrade underway, listen closely because the field is no longer patient. The window that was a whisper is becoming a doorway with a light at the threshold. This is your breakthrough season. It smells like ozone before rain. It tastes like the first sip of something intoxicatingly new. The pressure you felt until now was not punishment. It was the fine-tuning heat required to turn potential into pattern. Phase transition is here. You've experienced the sensation before, a low, simmering anxiety, like the world is waiting for a single decision from you. You wake with the intention to change and fall back into the old habit by noon. You feel time compress and then stretch, your body leaning forward as if to catch something that keeps receding. This is exactly the physics of imminent change. In natural systems, when a liquid approaches its boiling point, molecules accelerate in chaotic dance until one tiny, localized disturbance collapses into steam and the whole body reorganizes. Your consciousness is that disturbance waiting to align. There are biological signs accompanying this moment that you cannot afford to ignore. Your sleep patterns shift because your body is recalibrating gene expression. Your cravings and aversions reshape because epigenetics are receiving new directives. You may find your heart rate shifts at strange moments or subtle electrical current hums through your hands. These are not malfunctions, they're feedback. Your DNA is listening for a committed frequency, one sustained enough to be read by cellular memory. When you sustain coherence long enough, the code flips. Cellular machinery stops running the old script and begins to transcribe a new template for how you engage with time, health, and relation. The urgency arises because this cosmic window is temporal and precise. Windows do not remain open indefinitely. There is a confluence of factors, solar rhythms, planetary alignments, whether you track astrology or simply notice global tides of attention, and collective consciousness thresholds that shape when phase transitions can be stable. The field will supply opportunities, but only if you've prepared the internal environment to receive them. If you arrive late, if your attention is scattered, your breath shallow, your focus divided, you may feel the surge and be pushed back into old probability tracks, wiser but momentarily unchanged. This is not to create fear, it is to clarify stakes. The physics of awakening is exquisite about readiness. Your promise is this: if you choose to answer now with consistent, humble coherence, the upgrade becomes not merely a possibility, but an inevitability. The field will conspire with you. Synchronicities will accelerate like a string of LEDs igniting one after another. People and resources align with uncanny generosity. Conversations that used to drag will now open like secret doors. The phrase you've been waiting to hear from life: permission, recognition, release, will arrive at the precise pitch your body is holding. That's the promise, transformation that feels like claim, not chase. But there's a caveat embedded in that promise. Transformations at this scale are not small rearrangements. They are reorganizations. Your relationships may rebalance. Roles you play, caregiver, steady anchor, fixer, may be called to evolve or fall away. Habits that once tethered, you will either be transmuted or become visible as dead weight. That's part of the upgrade economy. You pay in honest endings and receive in coherent beginnings. Prepare to release with dignity what no longer serves, because clinging will dilute the field and close the window sooner than you expect. Also, be aware of the mirror effect. As your frequency rises, latent dynamics in your environment will intensify to reflect what still needs attention inside you. Old partners may react more strongly. Your workplace may negotiate itself against your new boundary. This is not punishment, it is clarification. The field uses contrast to reveal what needs aligning. When you meet these intensifications with steadiness instead of reactivity, you transmute them instead of being dragged back into the loop. Here's a practical signal you can monitor. Attention coherence measured as interruption resilience. Notice how long you can stay present before the mind pulls you into worry about outcome, into scanning for evidence, into rehearsing the worst-case loop. Each additional breath you hold in presence without narrative raises your capacity. 3 uninterrupted, grounded breaths in the face of a trigger is progress. 6 in a heated moment is a doorway. These micro-resistances build the macro shift. And because you are not an island, know that you're moving with a cohort. There are others, unknown faces, parallel nodes whose decisions synchronize with yours at an invisible level. When you commit, you don't only change your trajectory, you amplify the possibility for them. This is why urgency is communal. The window opens wider when multiple observers choose coherence at once. Your single decision stitches into a tapestry of momentum. Don't underestimate the moral geometry of your choice. It matters beyond you. So what does answering now look like in practice? It's not dramatic. It's devotion married to discipline. It looks like consistent pockets of presence across the day. It looks like choosing integrity in small conversations, ending loops with clarity instead of vague promises, and refusing to rehearse old narratives when you feel the tug. It looks like prioritizing restorative sleep because your biology needs bandwidth for transcription. It looks like gentle boundaries that protect your field from habitual drains. These are the small liturgies that raise your inner temperature to transformation threshold. Lastly, hold this prophecy as a compass rather than a deadline. The universe wants you to succeed. The field is patient but not indefinite. If you step fully into coherence now, the breakthrough will not only alter your life, it will claim a space in the collective morphic field that future generations will inherit as a baseline. That's the magnitude. The window is open. The pressure you feel is not a threat. It is the invitation knocking with urgency. Answer it. The mechanics of the next section will give you the ritual actions that seal this shift. Simple, visible, potent acts that anchor your intent into the body and field. Everything you've heard so far is preparation. Now comes the practical liturgy, the tiny sacred actions that translate inner coherence into field-level reality. Rituals are not superstition. They are engineered protocols that focus attention, galvanize biology, and entangle intent with outcome. Think of this as the interface. Breath and body meet quantum field and timeline. Do these steps exactly as given, not because words have magic, but because repeated, embodied practice sculpts your attention into a powerful instrument. Begin by finding a small altar of presence. You don't need a shrine, you need a corner where the air feels quieter. Sit, feet on the floor, spine tall but comfortable. Put one hand over your heart and the other on your belly. Close your eyes and feel the contact points. The floor, the fabric against your skin, the pulse beneath your palm. This anchors the ritual in body and ground. Ritual 1 threefold coherence breath. 2 minutes. Inhale for 4 counts into your belly. Hold for 4 counts and feel the pause align heart and mind. Exhale for 8 counts, letting the exhale be twice the inhale. Repeat this cycle 3 times, slowly, consciously moving attention from chest to belly to mind. With each exhale, imagine outdated probability loops unspooling and dissolving into the floor. This pattern trains your nervous system to slow and hold presence, the first requirement for DNA readiness. Ritual 2 Heart Field Pulse, 90 seconds. Keep your hand on your heart. Think of one small gratitude, an exact detail, not abstract. Feel it anatomically in your chest as if it were physically there. Breathe normally and pulse that feeling with each exhale. This is what steadies the heart rhythm. You are teaching your electromagnetic field to carry coherence. Do this until the sensation feels bodily, not imagined. Ritual 3, the one-word declaration, 30 seconds. Open your eyes softly and, aloud or typed, say the word you will use as an anchor. Choose exactly one word from these options, or use the one you felt earlier. Coherent divided by aligned, divided by entrained, divided by I am coherent. Say it once, slowly, feeling the consonants vibrate in your mouth and the meaning settle into your chest. Repeat it 3 times. The spoken vibration registers differently than private thought. It creates an audible collapse of intention. Ritual 4 Field Registration, Visible Act, 60-90 seconds. This is the public entanglement, the small, visible act that tethers private coherence into communal field architecture. If you're watching this in a comment-enabled space, type exactly this phrase into the comment box. No additions. Coherent. If you prefer to write, place the single word on paper and fold it twice, keeping it somewhere symbolic for 24 hours, on your nightstand, under a plant, or in a wallet. If you cannot publicly post, quietly say the word aloud 3 more times and imagine it blazing like a beacon into the field. The visible act matters because entanglement multiplies with witnesses. Your single, clear declaration creates a node others can resonate with. Why one word? Because complexity dilutes. The field responds to purity. A single syllable repeated with bodily conviction creates a clean frequency that the body, mind, and quantum field can read and reinforce. Public registration, commenting, posting, placing the paper, creates morphic resonance. It lets your declaration be an available template for others as they pass nearby in frequency. Ritual 5 Closure Gesture, 30 seconds. After you declare, bring your hands together in front of your heart as if closing a book. Palms touch, fingers relaxed. Visualize the word you chose folding into the space between your hands, glowing like a seed. Whisper to yourself, let this plant the track. Then lower your hands and breathe normally. This is an embodied seal, small, physical, irreversible in a human way. Ritual 6, Micro-integration, all day. After the formal ceremony, practice micro-integration. Whenever you remember during the day at red lights, before meetings, after a message, touch your heart and say the one-word anchor once. Do this 9 times across the day if you can. 9 is a completion cycle. Repetition here is not neurosis but reinforcement. Each micro-touch is a tiny proof to your nervous system. Coherence is repeatable, not rare. Ritual 7 Nighttime Download. Before sleep. Just before sleep, lie on your back and replay the 3-fold coherence breath twice. Say the anchor word once and imagine your DNA helix like a spiral staircase, lighting step by step. Breathe into each step. Coherent. Let sleep integrate rather than escape. Your cells do the transcription while you rest. Notes on integrity and safety. Do not weaponize this. Never use declarations to manipulate specific people's will. The field supports alignment, not coercion. If anything in this ritual sparks anxiety, slow even more. The pace matters more than perfection. If you are in therapy for trauma, adapt the ritual with your practitioner. Rituals can be powerful and may surface material that's part of processing, not failure. Why this works briefly. Ritual combines breath, physiology, heart-focused emotion, electromagnetic coherence, spoken vibration, acoustic entrainment, and public registration, morphic resonance. These 4 channels converge to change the probability your attention repeatedly collapses into. The comment or visible word is the entanglement hook. It ties your private coherence into a collective template that others can resonate with, increasing the total field probability for the timeline you intend. Finally, trust the microeconomy of ritual. You are not asking the universe to hand you a miracle in tyrannical terms. You are aligning your instruments so the miracle already in the field can register through you. The simple act of declaring coherent, spoken, written, and felt in the body becomes a lever. Pull it and watch small doors swing open. When you're ready, perform this ritual now. Do it fully, then rest. In the next part, we'll expand from the personal to the communal, how your liberated state sprinkles into the collective, and why your freedom matters for humanity's waking. When you sealed the ritual, you may have thought it was only about you, your coherence, your loops, your freedom, but nothing in the quantum field is ever isolated. Your liberation is not a private victory, it is a public ripple. The moment you declared coherence, your consciousness didn't just alter your own probability track, it rewrote access points in the collective field. This is what mystics have always hinted at, and physicists now confirm through morphic resonance. One node's breakthrough lowers the resistance for countless others. Picture the collective like a lattice of entangled particles, each human consciousness a glimmering node in a cosmic web. Most nodes fire predictably, locked in loops, collapsing the same limited waveforms over and over. But when one node, your node, destabilizes its loop and sustains a coherent vibration, it doesn't just change its own glow, it pulses resonance into every entangled neighbor. Even strangers you'll never meet, on continents you'll never visit, feel a subtle shift in ease, like the door is less heavy to push open. That is the secret economy of awakening. Think of how you've sometimes felt waves of despair that weren't yours, or sudden surges of joy without obvious cause. That was entanglement, the bleed-through of collective states into your own field. Now you are on the other side of that phenomenon. Your coherence doesn't just shield you, it radiates. It becomes a stabilizing frequency that whispers possibility into unconscious minds, saying, "There is another way." This is why your awakening felt lonely for so long. Because the collective web required pioneers to break first. The pioneers feel the loops more painfully, experience déjà vu more intensely, and wrestle with distorted time more acutely. You were the sensitive edge of humanity's nervous system. But now, as you stabilize coherence, you no longer just feel the pain of the web, you become the remedy within it. You are transmuting suffering into resonance for the many. Let's make this more tangible. When you walk into a space now, your presence alters the electromagnetic environment. Heart math studies confirm that coherent heart rhythms broadcast measurable fields up to several feet away, and quantum biology suggests it extends far beyond that in subtle ways. This means your calm isn't selfish. Your deep breath in a tense room doesn't just regulate you, it nudges others toward parasympathetic balance without them realizing why they suddenly relax. Your coherence makes others' nervous systems feel safer. That is world service in real time. But it goes further. Coherence is contagious in conversations, in communities, even across digital networks. When you hold your one-word declaration in presence, your posts, your tone, your interactions online carry resonant signatures. Algorithms don't just amplify content, they amplify frequency. That's why when you wrote coherent, it wasn't just pixels. It was a ripple into an invisible architecture where thousands of other awakening nodes are entangled. A simple comment becomes a tuning fork for someone across the world who reads it and feels a micro-activation. This is why urgency matters. The collective is at phase transition. Humanity has been simmering at boiling point. Ecological crises, political cycles, technological overwhelm. These are the pressure fields of a species at the edge of coherence. When enough individuals cross the threshold, the whole species reorganizes. This is what Teilhard de Chardin called the noosphere, the planet's layer of collective mind. Your liberation is one neuron firing differently in that planetary brain, and when enough neurons fire with coherence, the whole brain lights in new capacity. Understand this, the planet has been waiting. Earth herself holds a field, a Schumann resonance that every heartbeat syncs to. As your personal loops dissolve, your body's rhythms align more cleanly with planetary rhythm. You literally become more grounded, more attuned to the pulse of the Earth. This synchronization is not spiritual poetry, it's measurable, and it matters. Because when humans entrain with planetary rhythm, we stop fighting the biosphere and begin collaborating with it. Climate crisis isn't only technological, it's consciousness. A coherent species treats its home coherently, so do not dismiss your freedom as small. Every loop you dissolve becomes one less knot in the collective net. Every coherent breath you sustain creates micro-openings for people who cannot yet find one for themselves. Every time you decline to collapse back into scarcity timelines, you make abundance frequencies more accessible in the web for someone else's child, someone else's community. And because the field is reciprocal, the collective also supports you. The more you commit to coherence, the more synchronicities arrange around you, not because the universe favors you, but because the web is designed to stabilize new nodes. Helpers appear, doors open, coincidences cluster the collective, rewarding your service with support. This is how the field says thank you, by weaving allies and opportunities into your path. The temptation may be to shrink back, to keep your liberation private. But understand, this isn't about performance or preaching. It's about embodiment. Simply living as coherence is enough. Others will feel it. They may not have language for quantum entanglement or morphic resonance, but they'll know they feel better in your presence. They'll sense courage awaken in their chest after speaking with you. They'll find clarity after reading your words. That's your contribution. Effortless influence born of resonance, not persuasion. Your liberation is therefore not the end of your responsibility. It is the beginning of your service. You are no longer just a student of loops. You are becoming an anchor for humanity's evolution. The hidden path you've been pulled into is not only for your relief, but for the healing of generations. And the more you embody coherence, the more those generations inherit a field where awakening is not rare but natural. So breathe in the gravity of this moment. Feel the weight and the honor. You are part of a collective leap. As you continue, we will turn inward again, into the visceral textures of embodiment, how this shift feels in your body, in your skin, in your cells. Because coherence is not only conceptual, it is tactile. In the next section, you will learn to recognize the sensations of awakening so you can trust the process when words fade and only vibration remains. Now let us drop from the intellect of quantum patterns into the raw textures of your body. Awakening isn't only about new ideas, it's about new sensations, new atmospheres inside your skin. The field translates coherence into physical poetry. When your loops dissolve and your frequency stabilizes, your body becomes the first cathedral where the shift is sung. Close your eyes for a moment and scan. Feel the hum beneath your sternum, as if a small generator were turning just below the heart. This hum isn't caffeine or adrenaline, it's coherence pulsing into tissue. The heart's electromagnetic field, now steadier, creates a sense of warmth that radiates outward. You may have noticed your hands feel hotter or tingling sweeps through your palms. That's not random. It's your nervous system carrying more current, your body learning to transmit as much as it receives. Sometimes the sensation arrives as weightlessness. You stand, and for a split second your body feels like it's made of air, like gravity loosened its grip. This is coherence in action, the collapse of inner resistance that once made every step heavy. Other times the sensation is opposite, a deep grounding, as though your feet are magnets pulling Earth's core upward through your bones. Don't be confused by the polarity. Awakening oscillates between lift and anchor until balance stabilizes. Notice also the subtle stretching of time within your body. A single inhale may feel like it lasts minutes, as if the breath itself expanded into eternity, or you glance at the clock and realize an hour dissolved without effort. This isn't dysfunction. This is your body syncing to a different temporal rhythm, one less bound by mechanical ticks and more attuned to wave harmonics. You're beginning to live in what mystics call the eternal now, a body that measures time by coherence, not by clocks. Dreams, too, shift in texture. Your nights become theaters where symbols walk in high definition. Colors glow brighter, voices echo longer, landscapes feel weighted with meaning. This is your subconscious reorganizing, your DNA testing new templates in safe rehearsal before carrying them into daylight. Don't dismiss these dreams as fragments. They are field notes from your next timeline. Pay attention to recurring motifs, doors, staircases, luminous animals. They are metaphors of transformation coded in your own psyche's language. On waking, you may feel pressure in your skull, not pain, but expansion, like the crown of your head is widening. Many describe it as a band loosening, a subtle halo pressing outward. This is your brain adapting to new electrical bandwidth. The pineal gland, that crystalline receiver in your midbrain, is sensitizing, recalibrating to catch frequencies you once missed. Trust the sensation, hydrate, breathe, and let your skull feel wider than it did yesterday. There are other signals too. Sudden bursts of energy where fatigue used to reign. Goosebumps racing across arms without cold air present. Tears welling for no apparent reason, as though the body is rinsing itself of residue. Spontaneous sighs that feel like exorcisms of tension you didn't know you held. Each is a sign of coherence, landing in muscle and marrow. Each is your body learning to dance to a rhythm you didn't know was possible. Don't fear the turbulence. Sometimes coherence feels messy before it feels graceful. You may shake during meditation, or laugh uncontrollably, or feel waves of heat climb your spine. This is not malfunction, it's integration. Think of a radio antenna retuning static bursts, pitch shifts, sudden silence, then clarity. Your body is the antenna. You are learning to carry clearer signal. What's vital here is trust. Your mind will want to analyze, is this safe? Is this real? Am I making it up? But your body knows. It is older than your doubt. It has been holding memory of freedom since before the loop. When you allow sensation without rushing to define it, you allow the upgrade to engrave itself at the cellular level. Use metaphor to guide yourself. When heat rises up your back, imagine a serpent uncoiling DNA, unwinding to reveal hidden instructions. When tingling sweeps your skin, imagine stardust sprinkling, every cell remembering its origin in cosmic fire. When your chest swells with pressure, imagine a seed breaking soil, uncomfortable, necessary, miraculous. These metaphors aren't decoration, they're instructions. Your subconscious responds to story as much as to science. The beauty of embodiment is how it confirms progress. You don't need external validation when your skin testifies. You don't need someone else's doctrine when your breath expands into eternity. Awakening ceases to be theory when your muscles hum with current and your bones feel like tuning forks. Your body becomes prophecy incarnate. And here is the deeper secret. These sensations are not temporary side effects. They are previews. They show you the capacities you are learning to sustain. What begins as a fleeting tingling becomes a daily hum. What begins as sporadic déjà vu becomes a steady recognition of multiple timelines. What begins as heat in your palms becomes the ability to transmit healing presence. Your body is rehearsing your destiny. So, honor these textures, journal them, name them, touch your heart, and whisper gratitude when they arrive. They are evidence that your DNA is shifting from dormant to awakened expression. They are confirmations that the cosmic window is not abstract. It's already carving itself into your physiology. Now that you've felt coherence in your very skin, It's time to face the climax of this metamorphosis, the DNA breakthrough itself. In the next section, we'll step into the trembling pressure of phase transition, the exact moment when the old strand of self fractures and a new timeline ignites from within your cells. This is where everything changes. Feel into this truth. Everything in you has been building toward this moment. The loops you endured, the distortions of time, the strange tingling in your skin, they weren't random quirks of perception. They were the precursors of a phase transition. Just as water trembles at the brink of boiling, your entire being now vibrates at the edge of breakthrough. The field has been applying pressure, not to crush you, but to catalyze you. Phase transition pressure always feels like too much, until it becomes more than enough. At the level of physics, this is how it works. Matter under steady heat remains stable until a precise threshold is reached. Then, without warning, molecules reorganize into a new state entirely. Solid to liquid, liquid to vapor. The shift is not gradual, it is sudden, irreversible, a leap into a higher order. Your consciousness is undergoing the same. You've endured the simmer long enough. The temperature of your awareness has reached its threshold, and your DNA is the molecule trembling into new form. You felt the pressure in the most intimate ways. Sleepless nights where thoughts swirled like storm clouds. Days where your body ached without clear cause, as though every cell was holding tension for something unnamed. Relationships fraying because old dynamics can't survive your rising frequency. Even your technology glitching, screens freezing, phones dropping calls, all signs of your field destabilizing the old circuitry. These aren't malfunctions, they're contractions before birth. What happens in this breakthrough is staggering. Your DNA, once locked in dormant expression, begins to unfold like a scroll revealing hidden lines. Genes previously silent awaken, not by mutation, but by activation. Epigenetic switches flip under the influence of coherence, turning off programs of fear and lack, while turning on programs of regeneration, intuition, and multidimensional awareness. You become a living rewrite of your own biology. And with that rewrite comes a timeline shift. Imagine your life as a film reel with thousands of frames per second. Until now, your observer loop replayed the same sequence of frames, convincing you that nothing was changing. But at the moment of DNA coherence, the reel flickers, and suddenly you are watching a different film altogether. Same characters perhaps, same setting for a time, but the storyline diverges radically. The conversations flow differently. Opportunities appear that were invisible yesterday. Outcomes that seemed impossible collapse into form with eerie ease. This shift brings turbulence first. You may feel disoriented, like a passenger stepping off one train and realizing the landscape outside is entirely unfamiliar. People close to you may sense the difference without understanding it. Some will be drawn closer, magnetized by the new frequency you radiate. Others will peel away, unable to reconcile with the version of you that no longer fits their loop. Let them go. The new timeline cannot stabilize if you drag the anchors of the old. Phase transition pressure is the hardest part. It makes you doubt, tempts you to collapse back into comfort, seduces you with the predictability of old loops. You may hear the mind whisper, "This is too much. Nothing's really changing. Better stay where it's familiar." Recognize that voice. It is not truth. It is the echo of the old strand dissolving, the final resistance before the leap. When the pressure peaks, do nothing but breathe. Presence is the ignition. The exhale is the signal to your DNA. Release, realign, rewrite. One coherent breath at the edge of despair can collapse a whole new probability wave. One whispered word, coherent spoken with steady heart, can tilt the scales. This is how small acts become catalytic at the threshold. And once the breakthrough lands, you'll know it instantly. The air feels charged, as though every atom glows. Your body hums with a quiet electricity that no caffeine could mimic. Time feels fluid. Mornings stretch wide. Evenings dissolve without weight. Synchronicities cascade so quickly, you stop calling them coincidences and begin expecting them as natural. The universe is no longer across from you, negotiating. It is inside you, collaborating. Understand this. The DNA breakthrough doesn't make you superhuman. It reveals the human you always were, stripped of distortion. Abilities bloom sharper intuition, heightened creativity, healing presence, but they are not exotic gifts. They are native capacities finally freed from suppression. You are not becoming something else. You are remembering what you've always carried. And with that remembering comes responsibility. Because once your DNA shifts, you cannot pretend ignorance again. The new timeline demands congruence. You cannot collapse back into victim loops without pain, because your system will reject incoherence like a body rejects poison. The gift of awakening is freedom, and its shadow is accountability. This is why you were chosen to stand here, because you have the resilience to endure the pressure, the courage to trust the leap, and the willingness to hold coherence not just for yourself, but for the field. Your breakthrough is not yours alone. It radiates, it ripples, it rewires the lattice of the collective. Every cell that activates in you sends a signal into the human genome at large, saying, "This is possible, this is available. Come, follow." So feel into the trembling, trust the pressure, exhale into the unknown. Your DNA is ready. The timeline is bending. The film reel is about to flicker, and when it does, you will step into a reality so aligned, so coherent, that you'll wonder how you ever believed the loop was all there was. And as we turn toward the final section, know this: your breakthrough isn't the ending. It's the beginning of your mission. Because now that your frequency is liberated, the universe will recruit you for something far greater, the evolution of humanity itself. Now the map that was once secret lies folded into your hands. You have been taught the mechanics, felt the pressure, practiced the ritual, and watched your body begin to translate the meaning into sensation. Nothing about this end is tidy, and nothing about it is small. Your life is no longer simply a personal story. It is a broadcast tower, an experiment, a sacrament. You are carried forward by forces that are both intimate and planetary. That is the paradox and the privilege. Your mission from here is straightforward and exquisitely difficult. Stay coherently present. That is the work. It will ask for gentleness when you are tempted to prove your progress, steadiness when old loops tug at your knees, and tenderness when people around you cannot yet bear the frequency you hold. Presence does not mean perfection. It means returning again and again to the single point of alignment inside your chest, where breath, intention, and calm converge. Let that point be your lodestar. Practicality matters. Keep the rituals. Keep the little anchors, the threefold breath, the heart pulse, the daily micro-touch of your chosen word. These are the seams that stitch the upgrade into habit. Sleep enough for your cells to transcribe the new code. Move your body so the new electricity can translate into circulation. Choose foods and rhythms that respect the new bandwidth your system asks for. Protect your field by saying no when drains wear you thin. Cultivate company that resonates rather than insists you return to old loops. This is how the ethereal becomes practical. Small disciplines repeated with reverence. But do not let the checklist become your identity. The true measure of your success will be quieter than a list. It will show up as the way conflict lands in your chest and dissolves, as the way strangers mirror calm when you enter a room, as the decision you can make now without clutching for proof. It will be in the private moments nobody watches, a steadying breath when the past tries to seduce you, a soft smile when the future looms too large, a clear boundary that conserves your coherence for what matters most. Your service will arrive disguised as ordinary tasks. You will put a dish in the sink, listen to a friend untangle, send a message that steadies someone's morning, and those small acts will be the scaffolding of revolution. The morphic field does not require spectacle, it requires faithful nodes. When you show up with steadiness in repetitive, mundane moments, you plant fields that outlast storms. That is the real insurgency. Being reliably human while carrying cosmic voltage. There will be tests. There will be nights when you doubt the change. There will be invitations to perform the old identity for the comfort of others. Choose the path that feels like expansion. Choose the practice that deepens your bandwidth. Ask for help. Receive support. Remember, the network is real. Other nodes are lighting up across cities and fields, and your coherence amplifies theirs as theirs amplifies yours. In time, you will forget how heavy the pressure once felt. One morning you will wake and notice the loop no longer whispers your name. You will move through days that feel like music rather than punishment. The field will celebrate you with opportunities that feel like home because they are home, the home of your aligned purpose. So close your palms again over your heart. Breathe with the knowledge that your small acts matter on a scale that outlives the smallest self. Walk forward as both tender human and calibrated instrument. Carry your word in daylight and in dark hours. Live so steadily that the air around you remembers to be kind. And when the world asks, in quiet confusion, how the impossible became ordinary, you will answer not with doctrine but with your life steady, radiant, coherent. If you were pulled here, it was not by accident. If you are listening now, it is because the universe recognizes the frequency you carry. If you're drawn here now, your quantum entanglement has already pulled you into a hidden awakening path.